Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we are here with Justin Bluen, Pine State Sport Supply. We are testing out some of his newer products, but we're also giving a run at some of the spoons he had on the market for a while. Welcome, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem. Couple fish in the boat this morning.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. It's not as lightning fast as we hope, but that's because I'm here, so I'm used to it.
All right.
It is what it is.
Well, we did just pick up a couple of fish, and we're working at some more. All right. Well, first off, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so born and raised Mainer. I've lived in the same town my whole life. Always been involved in the outdoors, whether it's been hunting, fishing. Big into sports too. Like the contact sports, like the blood stuff. So hockey, football, fighting, all that. But yeah, no, grew up in Maine and grew up in the outdoors. Kind of, one of those things that my dad was really into it. So naturally,
We led you down that
yeah,
road.
I always thought it was so cool as a kid. Like I remember my dad would come in, from deer hunting in the fall, and as a little kid, I was just enamored with like, whoa, he had a cool like Model 300 Savage and 99 Savage and a 300, and he'd lay it down when he came in. I was just like, oh my god, that this is so cool. And he had like the wool on and the Peter Pan hat, and I was just like, I was always like a superhero to him. Like I can't wait to do that one day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So and it didn't take long, and eventually as I got a little bit older, it was like, oh, can we go? Almost like a pain in my dad's side. I felt like, hey, can we go fishing today? Can we go fishing today? Like, can you bring me hunting? And he would. My dad was always really good about that. And my dad, he's a single guy too. So my parents split when we were pretty young, and my dad, God bless him, because he always took the time to, keep us out outdoors. And it was bass fishing and stuff when we were little, but that's great, right? Because we were always interacting with fish, and we would go every weekend as kids. And as I got a little bit older, my dad started getting me more into deer hunting and archery and things like that. And my dad was a hell of an archer too, and he was like the Maine state champion and stuff for archery. And my mom was too. My mom's a hell of an archer, and I kind of got going down that road, which led me to my career now. And I'm really happy it turned out that way. There's a bunch of different roads you can go to in life, and this just kind of, my whole life has kind of been in the outdoor sector, outdoor world, and I couldn't imagine it any other way.
Awesome. That was really cool. So how'd you get started down in the spoon world?
So it's kind of interesting. Shout out to all my buddies, you know who you are, but it kind of came up with an idea. I got sick of paying $8 or $9 for a spoon, and yeah, and it was like one of those things. Like, all right, well, we can come up with something, so I don't have to buy them. If they cost me, $3, it's way better than $9 or whatever it is, So started coming up with some stuff, and my buddies, childhood buddies, and I, we always take a trip every year. It's like the one time we can all get together. And
sure.
Now we all have kids and jobs, so it's like one of the nights. One year I showed up with these things. I'm like, hey, I got one for everybody. Let's go try them out. And we were up in Mooselet, McGunnick, and we kind of came back. And mind you, Matt, these things were rough. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. They were stamped, and they had a little bit of paint, and I didn't have a clue about top coats or anything. They were junk, right? They were junk. But we caught some fish on them until the paint wore off. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I got something here. And I never intended this to be, and I still don't intend it to be like, oh, this is going to be my $1 million idea. I just wanted to put something out there that was a good product, was priced, fairly. Not everybody wants to pay $9, $10 for a spoon. So priced fairly and will work. And they're going to be tough. They're not going to fall apart in a fish or two. It take a couple extra steps to make sure that, they're going to hold together. And another big thing was I wanted to make something with quality components. So I went out and I spent the extra money to put quality components on all these spoons, because let's face it, you've been there, I've been there, everybody that fishes has been there, where like you're guessing the hooks are dull, or the split rings are off, they're kind of crooked, or whatever, stickers peeling off. And I didn't want that. Being in the outdoor industry as a living, there's a certain element of customer service that you have to have, and I just wanted to bring that to the fishing world because I felt like there was a little bit of a void there.
Perfect. Well, we've been kind of digging through some of your products in the line. Some of them haven't hit the website yet.
Not yet.
But that's all right. So we may not show you everything we're fishing with today, but we have had some action. Definitely the crappie are liking one of those new patterns quite a lot.
Yeah, and and I, to that point, we don't put anything out, Matt, that doesn't catch. So, I was talking about that trip. Like this year, we diverted a little bit. We went to Moosehead this year, and same guys. Hey guys, here we go. Here's what's new for
Sure.
this year. Because now we're just coming into our first year anniversary, being in business. So we're already testing for 24, and come spring next year, we'll be testing for 25. So I gave the guys a bunch of the stuff. I said, hey, here's what I'm looking at doing for next year. Let's go try them.
Yep.
Let's see what we think. If they suck, they suck. We'll throw them away. I don't care. Or keep them, give them to your kids, do whatever. So did we run into a couple that didn't fish well? Yeah, we did. And then we came up with a half a dozen that were like, we got something here.
All right.
So that's some of what we have going on today. But we won't put anything I won't do anything that won't, even if they're attractive and they'll catch the fishermen. We're here to fish. We don't want to come out here and waste our time. Time's precious. We don't get as much time as we used to before kids. So when we go out, we want to catch. I don't want to put anything out that's not going to catch.
Right. So you're there making spoons for the fishermen, not the flashy to sell more.
Sure, we can make them that look really cool and flashy and look great on the shelf. And at the end of the day, you're going to spend your money on them, and if they suck, you're going to rot in the bottom of your box. I'd rather you have one that works and you have to throw it out because it's so beat and twisted or whatever else, or you lose it in the rocks and you got to go buy more. But I want to make spoons that work.
Excellent. All right. Well, I've got a question for you. So you're a busy guy. You do a lot. You rep with a boat company.
Yep.
You've got the spoon visits. You're a family man. How do you balance? It must be kind of a juggling act.
It can be. I'll tell you, I couldn't do it if my wife wasn't a saint. And she's probably going to think I'm buttering her up for saying this, but it is true. My wife is a saint, so we're very fortunate where she works in the school system. So her schedule, right, in the summertime and all the breaks, she's with the kids a lot. And she's, when school's out, she's out. So she's home when the kids are getting off the bus and things. But no, it is a juggle. Working for a boat company and having a territory that's the whole Northeast, essentially, New York to Maine, it's a lot of time on the road. And then, of course, having a side business too, I got to devote so much time to working in my shop. I'm a big stickler on inventory, so I don't ever want a customer to come, whether it's through my website or a retail store and say, well, I crushed them on this and I can't, where is it?
Sure.
I don't ever want to get to the point where I don't have inventory, because if you're trusting us enough to go and put us in your boat, right, we want to keep being there. And if it's working for you, I don't want it to be a thing of like, well, I can't buy them because, I decided not to work in the shop that day or not make. So I always have stuff in the shop, and my kids help too. My kids are great. They help with the packaging, and they help with the names. We were talking about this a little earlier, but my kids will help come up with some of the patterns and stuff. And one of the new patterns that you actually have right now, my daughter designed and then she named, and one of the ones that my son did is on the water right now. So I kind of involve them because yeah, it is busy, but to take that time and kind of manipulate it, right? So we are spending some family time, even though we're working.
Sure, and it's teaching a lesson
sure.
Along the way.
Yeah, my daughter, she's in middle school now. She just started middle school a couple days ago, and it's one of those things where like, hey, Dad will give you X amount of money to help me package. And then when she wants to spend it, it's just like, well, just remember how many lures you had to put together, to buy that. And it's a good life lesson. And I think a lot of kids lack that now. And
sure.
I don't want my kids to be one of them. So I try to instill that, and my daughter, she's a hell of a little seller too. So I was like, hey, if that gets to the point, you can take this over and Dad can just make them for you, so.
Well, I think it's great. I think it's really important to involve family, and it takes some of that time that might be grueling work. You can kind of make it fun.
Sure. Yeah. And and like I said, it teaches, there's a little bit of thing like life lessons in there too. So I'm happy that they're involved with it a little bit, and it does make it fun. And when my kids see success pictures, like, oh hey, Liv, they caught it on this, she just smiling ear to ear. She thinks that's so cool.
I can only imagine that's a great accomplishment. To be
sure.
part of something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect. What in the business with this balancing act and all? What are the concerns being a small business owner in Maine? Concerns or troubles, anything that you deal with on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we're fortunate where we live that we're such a outdoor heritage state, right? That being said, in the last couple of years, and I probably, shame on me for not doing a little bit more research on it, but there's a fair amount of people now that are manufacturing fishing tackle in the state of Maine. And I guess I never really realized it until I got into it, But that being said, is it a challenge? Sure, right? Because everybody is fighting for shelf space. The biggest thing I think that I want to take from it, and I'm fortunate in the way that I'm on the road and I'm at a lot of retail shops anyway for my job, is trying to bring that customer service aspect to it, and the personability of everything. Whether it's pick up the phone and being able to get a hold of me, or hey, I'm in a pinch and I need an extra 2 dozen of this. Can you get it? And it's going back to having the inventory, right? Like, yeah, it'll be in the mail tomorrow, no problem.
Excellent.
So yeah, there's challenges there, but I think as this business grows, and people start to use them and see how effective they are, it'll get to a point where the biggest challenge is going to be putting more time or teaching my kids how to do a little bit more to keep up with it.
Exactly.
Time, you can't buy time, and that's one thing that is just such a commodity is finding the time to do it all. And honestly, what sucks is that my wife, again, God bless her, there'll be nights where I'm in the shop at midnight starting a batch of 200, because I want to make sure I have that inventory.
Sure.
So the time thing is probably the biggest challenge of all. It's not retail space. I think it's finding the time to maintain a real business.
Understandable.
Yeah, that's people come and go and relationships develop, and that's great. But it's the time you can't get more of. There's only 24 hours in a day.
Absolutely. All right. So, do you have any advice for someone maybe younger, wanting to get into a small outdoor business, or somebody at retirement age that's looking for a little side hustle? With some of your experiences, getting this going.
Yeah, I would say first off, make sure you can set the time needed aside that it's going to go into it. And if you know anybody that is in the business already, maybe try to make some friends. I know, like Chris Everett, when I first started, I bounced a couple of questions off of him, right? Because it's not always cut and dry, and especially in the outdoor world, there's certain excise taxes that you have to pay. So for every lure I sell, right, 10% goes right to the government.
Sure.
And a lot of that law gets written by attorneys. So if you're not an attorney, some of that stuff's like, whoa, what am I reading here? And bouncing some of that stuff off Chris was like, God, Chris, you're a lifesaver, because I, trying to decipher it.
So he's been through some of that.
Yeah, and he was a huge help. He was a really huge help, and kind of set me, on the right course. But also, it was making sure you have resources. Like if you're going to take out a loan, make sure you're getting into something that will pay off your debt. I mean, I was very fortunate. I was kind of planning on this and set cash aside. So, whatever I dumped into, it was my own personal money, and as long as I could recoup it back, I was happy. And now it's built a shop and everything else. So, I would say make sure you can put the time aside and be personable. Answer the phone when it rings, answer emails when customers send in an inquiry or something like that. I think if you, show people that you care, right, it goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And don't cut any corners too. I would say that I could make 1,000 spoons, in a day if you let me, but it's not going to be quality, right?
Well, we were just looking through a bunch of the spoons that you brought with you today, and really impressive with the amount of care that went into those.
Oh, thanks.
Some of them are painted, some of them are applied, but really, there's no rough edges. They really look durable.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing is we built them, to be attractive, obviously, but we also, some of the steps that we take will help ensure that the paint's not going to chip off or your stickers aren't going to come off, the eyes, everything's protected. And that's just that one extra step. And, same thing with the terminal gear. We could have skimped probably on some of the stuff and saved a couple pennies here and there, but right on the scale of things, when you're doing a couple thousand, those pennies add up, right? But I didn't want to do that, so I wanted to, have the best components that we could afford. And we use VMC on everything. I'll just come out and say it. We use VMC. I feel like that's one of the best that we can do, and I don't have anybody complain saying that the hooks are dull or anything like that.
Well,
so.
and absolutely, we've all been there. With certain different products, whether it be a bad hook or a dull this or
Sure.
a bad leader, across the board.
Yep. Yep.
So it's good that you're taking those extra steps to for customer service, and you want
Sure.
those customers coming back happy.
And I have a thing too on my website. If anybody ever has any problems, give me a call because I'll replace it. I'll just send you a new one. There is no reason for us to not stand behind our product. And if that's what it takes, then we'll do it. If I make 1,000 spoons, I throw 100 into the acetone to clean them off because they didn't come out right.
Yep.
So I'll lose 10% or restart every time because, either there was a paint run or a bubble or something,
Okay.
and instead of putting that out on the market, we'll just start fresh.
That's an excellent procedure. Good. All right, so with this business, like any in the outdoor world, there's got to be a most memorable experience somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, sure.
Got a story you can share with us?
Yeah, so when we were kind of first getting going, right, and this is back when, okay, I got some stamped metal, we'll put some paint on it, and we made a fishing spoon, We were doing our yearly guide trip, and it was the first year I had them, and we were fishing out in front of Bald Mountain Camps, and the first color I made was the Bald Mountain Beauty. We called it that because of what we caught in front of Bald Mountain, and we were pulling along, and it was a morning just like this. It was flat, calm. We caught a handful of fish, and nothing on my spoon yet. So I was like, all right, this, maybe I suck at this, whatever. And I was talking to my buddy, and all of a sudden my rod bent right to the cork, and I was like, oh, and that moose look, a lot of the fish are 14, 16, and you just knew, like, we got a real one,
Hey, we got something here.
Yeah, I grabbed the rod, and it was just, thumping, and got up to the boat, and it was a 3.5 pound brook trout.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, let's get some pictures, whatever. And I was so stoked. So, we took it home and we put it in the cooler and letting some more line out. We were fishing like 9-10 colors of lead out there, and got it in the rod holder, and I go to turn to my buddy. He's like, hey, your rod. And I looked, and it was bang right to the cork again. I'm like, no way. So grabbed it, and I told my friend, because I had already had my one fish. I'm like, hey, dude, you take it, so he started cranking it in. He got it, and his was almost 4 pounds.
Oh, wow.
On that same spoon. So he looked at me, and he's like, you got something.
Yeah,
you got to do something
yeah.
now. So I was like, okay. So I'm like looking around. I'm like, well, it's Bald Mountain. We'll call it, and I love hockey, and they call the great guys at hockey beauticians. So I'm like, hey, we'll call it the Bald Mountain Beauty.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was the first spoon we kind of put into production, and it's really smelty looking, and it catches a mess of fish.
Yeah,
We're really happy with it.
That's awesome. All right, well, that's going to kind of wrap it up for us today. Justin, it's been awesome.
Hey, appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to actually stick around. We're going to fish a little longer. So people, you got a website.
I do. Yep.
Can we direct them where they need to go?
Sure. Yeah, you can visit us anytime at PineStateSportsSupply.com. We got a full e-shop. There's a photo album there. So if you do have some photos, you can send them over. We put all our customer catches that get submitted to us. We put them all on there.
Excellent. Okay, and I'm going to link that down in the description. So if you need to find that link, go ahead. Social media?
Yeah, so we are on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is at Pine State Sports Supply. Facebook, same thing, just Pine State Sports Supply.
Okay, perfect. We're also going to link that down in the description. And if you can't find that, go ahead on over to our page, and we'll make sure that we can get you on over, check out his gear. This stuff is awesome. I can't wait to keep running it this fall and see what we can do.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Mike.